Salute and welcome to the channel. So in this video, I want to cover a few more of my reasons for why I don't like the heat and rage mechanic in Tekken 8, as well as touch on a few of the aspects of the character balancing issues of this game, or should I say really the lack thereof in terms of when it comes to balance. But before I get started, I want to give a big shout out and salute to each and every one of you that actually caught the last video I did. I believe the thumbnail was something about season 3. Can season 3 save Tekken 8 or something like that? So I appreciate you guys that tuned into that video, and for the few of you that managed to actually subscribe to that particular video. I've been trying to keep up with the comments. If I haven't gotten to your comment yet, believe me, I've seen it, I've read it. I'll do my best to get to each and every one of you guys, as I do with most of my videos. But let me just go and start off by saying this. I understand that there are many people that, they really love this game. And then you have people like myself that are kind of like, it's more of like a love-hate kind of situation where I've been playing this franchise for basically my entire adult life, I would say. I wouldn't say adult, even since I was a teenager, because I'm 45 years old. I've been playing this franchise since I was 14. And I'm a former competitive pro. And I'm saying all of this for those people that might be new to the channel and catch me for the first time, which if that happens to be you, I do hope by the end of this video, I will have earned your subscription as well. But I digress. So I've been playing this game for a very long time, the franchise, I should say. And I've seen everything. I've dealt with bullshit broken characters, dating back, even when I was competing in Tekken Tag 1. But that was mostly local, so I don't really count that too much. But once Tekken 5.0 started, that's when I started to compete across the United States, up and down the Eastern Seaboard, and so on and so forth. So I've seen just about everything. I've played against all the busted characters. So the character balancing, while it is an issue, and I believe it is an issue that is shared by many players within the Tekken community, even if we may not agree on which characters pose the most problems, I believe that the majority of the Tekken community will all agree, or I would say mostly agree, that there are balancing issues with Tekken 8. However, as I said in many prior videos, my main issue, the main issue I have, is the heat and rage mechanic that this game is basically based on. It's its very core. It's the root of Tekken 8. Even I would even go so far as to say it's the root of all the issues in Tekken 8. This game, as I've said prior, was designed with the intention of aggression, right? And when you are aggressive, you're a lot of your attacks are going to be over prioritized. This is why many of the things that was going on in season 1, it didn't surprise me as it pertained to like characters having multiple moves that were plus on block. It's to give that offensive player the ability to continue sustained offense without too much of a risk of the opponent striking back. However, with the changes they made to armor attacks, as I stated in the last video, as to where if you do an armor attack, you tank through a move and it's no longer permanent damage as it used to be in Tekken 7. Now it's recoverable health. So it incentivizes you as the defensive player to basically armor through your attack, which is the reason why sidesteps early on in Tekken 8, what's the word I'm looking for? The lifespan of the game in season 1 was not up to par. It was not up to people's standards, because we all know that movement in Tekken as a whole has been a staple of the franchise up until Tekken 8. So that's where I kind of believe that the main defensive tool the developers wanted you, or should I say all of us, to use in Tekken 8 is armor attacks, because they wanted this game to be rooted in aggression. But on the flip side of that, when you are playing aggressive and you're getting your opponent down on health and you're about to secure your win because it's what you've earned and you've played the game as the developers intended for you to play the game, they reward the losing player with a rage art. And, this is a move that basically can turn an entire round, an entire match around. And it can oftentimes lead to the frustration of losing to someone that you know full well you had their number, they were a beaten player, they were done. And if they were going to make a comeback on you, they would have had to rely on actual skill to do so. But in Tekken 8, it's just literally one input that it is very possible to catch your opponent even while they're throwing a 10 frame attack, a jab, a simple jab. If you have a hairline type of reaction ability, yeah, if somebody throws a standing one, it is possible for that opponent to just literally mash out a rage art, and you got to watch a cutscene resulting either in the opponent making his comeback or you losing. And it's for that reason why I absolutely hate that whole rage art and the rage drive system, because more often than not, I personally, and I'm just going to speak for myself, I'm not going to speak for anybody, but for me, I feel the majority of my losses to people online, outside of latency, and for whatever reason in 2025 people still playing on Wi-Fi. I don't understand why the hell that even is a thing still. But outside of the online connectivity issues, you're dealing with people that, whether they're using a carried character or not, to me that's irrelevant. They're basically screwing you over by getting a rage art. And people will probably say, especially the trolls or people who don't know any better, they'll say, well, it's your fault for getting hit with a rage art, or you were pressing buttons. And it's funny because you're criticized for pressing buttons in a game that was designed by the developers for you to be aggressive, which means pressing buttons. So that doesn't even make sense to me. So when I see people in my comment section say that, I just shake my head. It's a little bit annoying, but it's just really stupid. It just shows how dumb they are. Because this game is rooted in aggression. This game is rooted in frame traps and all sorts of things to maintain your pressure. And to introduce an attack that completely flips that on its side is absolutely retarded. There is no counterplay for a rage art outside of you placing your controller on the desk and walking away from it. There is no other counterplay. You have to just hope that your opponent happens to not be doing a rage art as you are trying to secure your earned victory. Because if they do, you're going to get screwed over. You're going to lose like 50 or 55 damage, and you're behind the 8 ball, so to speak. Now you're the one, if the match has not ended, now the tide has changed for the opponent. And it's something that they did not earn. And I feel like that is really the crux of most people's issue. It's not the thing of losing. Because whether you're playing fighting games, anything competitive, whether you're fighting in real life, whether you're playing a basketball game, whatever it is, losing is going to be something, it's going to happen, right? Sometimes some people got your number. Sometimes you might come across people that are just better than you. It is what it is. However, It's another thing entirely when you are basically bashing your opponent from one end of the screen to the next, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh, okay, now they have this rage art. They're gonna take all my life off of a whim, off of one input. I'm not a fan of it. I understand why it's here. I understand the direction that Namco wanted to go with in regards to Tekken 8, but I'm still not a fan of it. Now, if I want to talk about the character issues, if I want to just share my screen real quick, let me just go and just do that. Okay, let me just make sure that's on. And okay, so if I want to talk about character specific things, sure, they're busted characters in the game. In this game, I feel like Jin is still very strong in this game. Law is basically a carried brain rot character. But then when you have things like Heat, for instance, it's one thing. For instance, I just show you here. If you do your little Heat smash, right, and now you're back on the wall, and then I'm not a fan of that. It's one thing to get your little heat smash, right? You get your little damage, but now I got to deal with this. I got to deal with another move, and then and if we take it a step further, if I would just do this again, right? Bam, bam, bam. Get back on the wall. Bop, bop, bop. Now you flip over like a pancake like that, and then now you got to deal with wake up options. All because this move from Jin is a 15 frame attack, basically. Right? This is basically a 15 frame poke. Okay. And then, of course, with Law, I believe Law, let me see. I think his is 13, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see. I think Law's is 14 frames. And it's basically the same thing. And the move basically sends you from here to the Andromeda Galaxy. And then it's like, okay, now you can just now you're back on the wall and, you do all this extra damage. I understand that, you want to give players the means to fight back. I get it. But it's these elements and these mechanics of Tekken that I'm just not a fan of. I can deal with busted, broken characters. I've been dealing with them all my Tekken career, all of my fighting game career. It's difficult, but you can overcome bad matchups to it. Well, unless they're absolutely horrendous. But then when you're dealing with a bad matchup, you're dealing with a player that's decent using a carried character, and then you also have to deal with these heat and rage aspects, because not only are you concerned with the heat and rage aspect, some characters have additional properties when they do activate heat, whether they have access to new moves, whether a move they had prior was like minus on block, now it becomes plus. They might have a move that gives you an armor break, and so on and so forth. And I find myself having more issues and more hatred toward the mechanics of Tekken 8 than the actual character balancing, because the character balancing in any fighting game is its own separate thing, right? In fighting games, you typically have, your story, which some people may or may not care. You have the character balancing aspect. You have the net code. You have and then you have the mechanics of the game. Like, for instance, if I were to talk about, say, Street Fighter 6, for instance, the mechanics of Street Fighter 6 revolves around the drive gauge system, right? And where if you can get your opponent to whiff an attack, or where you miss, if you were to catch that opponent in their recovery frames of the move that they missed, you get rewarded with extra frames of advantage that can lead to you as the player having combos that would otherwise not be possible in Street Fighter 6. So those are the mechanics of Street Fighter 6. which I'm not a fan of. No, excuse me, which I don't mind. I don't mind those mechanics. However, when it comes to Tekken 8, rewarding a player that is getting his or her ass beat with a possible rage art is something that I'm just not a fan of, because now you're going into the territory of that player that was losing, they did not earn that win. It wasn't something that you can honestly say, good game. It wasn't like the opponent really mounted a significant comeback. They didn't sidestep a move. They didn't block and punish you. They didn't even rush you down. Nothing. It was just they did one input, down forward both punches at whatever time, and they took basically 55 damage from you and stole around. It's that feeling of being cheated. That is the issue that I believe that many Tekken players feel, whether they want to articulate it or not. There's nothing wrong with losing to somebody who just so happens to be better. You know, some players might have your number. It is what it is. But it's another thing to feel you've gotten cheated. And that's the thing that really makes people want to rage quit. You know, they're watching a rage art knowing that this was a round or a set that basically was theirs. They earned it. They bust their opponent's ass. And now they got caught by some Hail Mary rage art that was gifted to them by the Namco devs to basically foster that feeling of, well, even though I'm getting my ass beat, I don't want to invest in the time to get good. So I'm going to have a shortcut that's going to grant me a win that I had no business getting and would not get if it were any other game. This is not a good decision. It's not. Now, I do understand from a business standpoint that the direction that the developers wanted to take this franchise into with Tekken 8, it was solely to cater to a casual market, which I've said in prior videos, the casual market is always the larger market in anything. Okay, whether we're talking about first-person shooters, whether we're talking about racing games, it doesn't matter. The casual market is the larger market. Now, the hardcore market is smaller, but they're more loyal and they're more vocal, and they're the ones they're gonna be typically your day ones, maybe even your day zeros. But Namco and many other developers, many other games across other genres, they are looking to make games more accessible. And whenever I hear the terms accessible or modern audience, for instance, modern audience, when you hear that, that's basically your woke, the agenda, the gender swaps, the alphabet community nonsense. That's what you hear, the modern audience. When you hear accessible, accessibility, those words basically mean we're dumbing the game down. We're removing a lot of the skill-based tactics and time needed to get good in the game. You can pick up and play. That's when you hear accessibility in those terms, in that way. So whenever I early on, I heard the Namco developers, Harada, Murray, Nakatsu, you know, they kept talking about accessibility and making things simpler. I already knew the direction that they were going for with this game. But it wasn't until I actually picked up and played it myself and experienced firsthand just how ridiculous these rage arts, these rage drives, especially those rage drives that connect low, like those are like literally unseeable, unreactable low attacks, basically. And, you know, on the surface, I wouldn't have an issue with them. For instance, if they were to just give you your damage, fine. If you want to take a little cheap damage, it's fine. But as I just demonstrated with Jin just now, not only are you doing damage, but you're also in a situation where you can re-wall splat your opponent for additional damage. This is why when I look at like a character like Raven, and I've made several statements regarding that character. I'll save additional for another video. But when you do his rage drive, Raven's rage drive, even if you're near the wall, it just knocks you to the ground. There is no added wall splat aspect. I don't know about other characters, but I'm just speaking about Raven. I would still have an issue with it, especially with the amount of damage you can lose. But with it not causing a wall splat, I feel like that's fine because you're getting your little extra damage, but you should not be rewarded with an additional wall splat combo. I feel like that's a little bit too much. And then when it comes to the rage art, there really is no counterplay for this move. I understand people may want to, spin it and try to come up with all of these conspiracy theories, and it's all bullshit. There is no counterplay for a rage art. If your opponent is in rage, you are, as the offensive player, you are taking a chance on finishing your opponent off because you don't know whether or not the losing player is gonna just YOLO rage art. That you don't know. There's no sidestepping it. There's nothing. The only thing you can do, and this is not counterplay, is literally do nothing. So you are essentially sacrificing your earned momentum, your earned pressure. You're surrendering that to the opponent that you basically bashed from one end of the screen to the next. And thanks to these help me mechanics, that losing player that you have basically absolutely mauled, now you have to be concerned because you don't know if that player is going to just go YOLO on you. Now, the issue with rage arts was never, in my opinion, never the punish. Obviously, you don't want the move to be safe, but with them making the move even more unsafe, that's not addressing the issue. The issue with the rage art is the startup. The fact that it freezes time and space, like Thanos has the time stone like when he has the reality or the space stone, and it freezes you in place. You can't do nothing. You can't move. Even if you're caught throwing a 10-frame jab, you are going to now watch a cutscene. It's absolutely ridiculous. And I have seen even higher level, elite level players get bailed out by this. So if this is not an issue that's only to blue ranks or low level players, no. Because I'll give you an example. And just to invoke the name of Ni, who happens to be one of my favorite all-time Tekken players. Let's say if I was playing Ni in tournament and I have my main, which is Lei Wulong, like maybe in an alternate universe where I actually have my actual main character in Tekken 8, and I'm whipping up on him. I'm doing really good, and I'm about to eliminate him. Right? I'm on the stage. It's grand finals at Evo. Let's just say, right? And then all of a sudden, in a stunning move, Ni rage arts me, and now evens the match 2-2, the final match. Before I was up 2-1, I'm about to finish him off to win grand finals, win Evo, and Ni all of a sudden out of nowhere throws out a rage art. Out of nowhere, like an RKO from Randy Orton, just out of nowhere. And now it's tied up 2-2 going into the final round. You may argue and say, well, I shouldn't have pressed anything. You may even say, well, okay, now it's the final round. Just deal with it. These are people that's never been in situations like this. These are the trolls and these online warriors that's never been out of their home state. They've never even been to an offline event to say stuff like that, because now what ended up happening is Ni in that situation basically miracled his way back into the match. Now the momentum has swung 100% in his favor. He has the momentum. He has the confidence. I'm like, no matter what, I'm human. I'm like, I'm on my way to winning and I get fucked out of this round. Like that it's going to be on your mind unless you're a robot and you completely put out your mind, but it's going to be present. And if you were to take away if that rage art did not exist, I would have won. I would have found, unless he would have found a way to come back. And if he did, that would have been kudos. It would have been a great comeback. And you know, it's just, I just can't respect it. I just cannot respect anybody that literally gets by off of a rage art. I just can't. And there's been many times where I've rage quitted in Tekken 7, Tekken 6, mostly because those games had horrible net codes. But I would say 99% of the time, if I've ever rage quitted in Tekken 8, and I'll admit it, I have, it's mainly because I got hit with a bullshit rage art. I'm gonna keep it dead ass real. And then even to make it worse, it's from an opponent that I was basically beating, and it's just one of those deals where I'm just not a fan of it. And I understand that there are players that love it, and because those players, they have to rely on it. I've never had to rely on a gimmick quite like that before to get over on my opponent. I never had to. And but I understand that there are people that love Tekken 8, and that's fine. Like I said many times, I don't throw no shade toward anybody that, you know, they love what they love, and that's totally fine. But I would personally love to see the outright removal of heat and rage as it currently is. And I can literally make a video off of this every day because I have so much thoughts on this. But I'm approaching the end of the video. But I will say in conclusion that if I haven't touched on it earlier in the video, the character balancing of this game is bad. It is horrid. But if I were to have the ability to play Tekken 8 without rage, without heat as it currently is, I would be able to better manage a lot of these nonsensical characters. It becomes much more of an issue when you have to deal with characters that are overpowered, that are typically carry-based characters. And then you also have to deal with their rage. You have to deal with their rage drives. Even when you block their rage drive, good luck sidestepping it. Basically, it leads you to like another 50-50. This is part of the reason why people call this game Casino 8. But again, does that mean that there are no good qualities about Tekken 8? No, there are positives in this game. There are aspects of Tekken 8 I do enjoy, but when it comes to the round one fight aspect, when it comes to the actual combat, it's just something. When it pertains to heat and rage, these are mechanics, as far as I'm concerned, they're highly cancerous. They do nothing to elevate this game. They only serve to screw over a player that has dedicated his or her time to get better, to learn frame data, to come up with new strategies and setups. And then all of that is basically wiped away or flicked away as if you're flicking away a housefly, because now if your opponent is in rage, you now have to give them all the respect in the world because you don't know if they're going to activate or not. And then as a result of that, you're surrendering all of your earned momentum, all of your earned pressure, and now you have to suffer that same opponent's offense. And then you run the risk of basically having them win. Where if you were to take that situation and copy and paste it in any other Tekken game, that opponent would have lost more often than not. But anyway, I think that's all I'm gonna say here. Shout outs to each and every one of my subscribers and members. And if you're new here, hopefully you'll subscribe. Even if we have a difference of opinion, I don't know how you can disagree with this, but if you do, let me know in the comment section and I'll see what I can do to respond. Anyway, I'll be back with more content because there's so much going on in the gaming industry with the Call of Duty situation, believe me, there's a lot to get into. But anyway, I'm out and take care. Peace.